Welcome to the Shield database. Please enter your access code. Welcome, Agent. Daredevil's Rogues Gallery features some of the most prolific crime lords, serial killers and mercenaries on Earth, all of whom regularly push him to his limits. However, he also frequently deals with small-time chancers looking to make a name for themselves and always coming up short. These crooks are usually nothing more than an annoyance to the man without fear, but on occasion have proved to be somewhat dangerous enough to cause concern. Here are 10 not-so-fearsome foes of Daredevil. George Smith was at one point a successful stunt motorcyclist, but when his career began to fall apart and middle age began to creep up on him, he accepted a job as an assassin, with his first target being Daredevil. George was offered a mere $1,000 to take on the hero and was, in the end, taken out with ease. Smith periodically showed up in Daredevil's life for years afterwards, most recently faking his own death and hiring a new stunt master, in a desperate effort to finally best Daredevil, only to end up in prison. The Enforcers are a small team of career criminals, often working for someone higher up. They consist of 3 men known as Montana, Fancy Dan and Ox, and despite most frequently tangling with Spider-Man, they have been a constant thorn in Matt Murdock's side as well. The 3 men have worked for seemingly every crime boss and supercriminal in New York, and despite being looked on as a very minor threat, they can prove dangerous when backed into a corner, particularly Ox, the member who has fought Daredevil most often. Calvin Szabo was a medical researcher who was obsessed with the story of Dr. Jekyll and Mr. Hyde. Convinced he could recreate the serum from the story for real and unleash his more bestial nature, Szabo stole money, equipment and supplies, eventually achieving his goals and unleashing a hulking monster on the world. Despite his incredible intelligence as Szabo and incredible strength as Hyde, however, he has proven time and time again that he is not cut out for the life of a supervillain, always coming up short. Hyde frequently faces A-list Avengers such as Thor or the Hulk, however even the likes of the Man Without Fear seems to have little trouble sending him straight back to Rikers Island. Turk Barrett has been a petty criminal for a long time, even working for Roscoe Sweeney in his early days. He frequently does jobs for Wilson Fisk and can usually be found at the center of any low-level deal taking place in the city. Usually Turk wants nothing to do with the superhero community, however occasionally something falls into his lap which seemingly levels the playing field, and when that happens he is more than happy to try and get payback on the likes of Daredevil for consistently making a joke out of him. Instances of this include his use of the Stilt-man suit, the Mauler armor and even an Infinity Stone. A man who was very common during Daredevil's early career but has not been seen since. Frank Farnham is an example of a supervillain who quickly learned not to tangle with the Man Without Fear. After a few failed attempts at taking down Daredevil, the masked Marauder was seemingly killed by his own device. He managed to escape with his life but was never a problem for Matt Murdock again. Despite occasionally popping up in the lives of other heroes, Farnham has a genius intellect and has access to a lot of technology built specifically for criminal purposes. His mask fires a beam that temporarily blinds all around him, and he is easily capable of creating androids and teleportation devices. Like Mr. Hyde, William Torrens fails, not due to his strength but his inability to use it effectively. His mutation is unstable, and so how strong he is varies, as does how bestial he appears and acts. His mutation was brought about as a punishment after failing in kidnapping people off the street for his boss. Torrens' savage nature is enough to make him very dangerous to the citizens of New York, but he is not a particularly great threat to the superhero community except for when his mutation reaches its peak, during which time he is capable of going toe-to-toe with the Incredible Hulk. This level of power, however, is a rarity for Torrens. Manuel El Aguinto was needlessly cruel, even for a bullfighter, and despite his talent, he could not get the crowd to support him. He was eventually hospitalized after a riot broke out due to his mistreatment of the bulls, and he left Spain, vowing revenge upon all mankind. This naturally sent him on to a collision course with Daredevil, and despite always coming back for more, El Aguinto is one of the least effective villains Daredevil has, not just losing time and time again but often also being feared dead after an encounter. Despite being skilled with swords and whips, El Aguinto's failures may in part be due to the fact that he often chooses to fight his enemies with a cape, a weapon that has proved fairly ineffective. Jonathan Powers was a failed actor, hoping to play Cyrano de Bergerac but instead being forced into children's television where he was routinely humiliated for laughs. This eventually took a big enough toll that Powers snapped and decided that if people want laughter at others' expense, he would at least be the one causing it, rather than enduring it. He commissioned a number of themed weapons and became a costumed criminal known as the Jester. Now armed with deadly toys, Jester was considered a major threat in Daredevil's early days. However, when more impressive criminals began to emerge, Jester once again began to look like the butt of the joke. Leapfrog is arguably the most ridiculous enemy Daredevil has ever faced. Vincent Patilio was, by his own description, a small-time loser. He was an inventor by trade but found no success. Eventually he created a suit capable of jumping up to 6 stories with no damage upon landing. The suit proved useful during criminal acts as it allowed Patilio to not only easily dodge attacks from vigilantes but also make a quick getaway. Daredevil was naturally able to defeat him, however, and did so again and again until the criminal retired and took a legitimate job. His son, however, went on to take the suit and become a hero known as Frogman, a decision which made Vincent immensely proud. Wilbur Day was a scientist but was not as gifted as many who are able to create technology or serums that give them an edge in the criminal world. Day was, however, capable of stealing and altering designs for a hydraulic ram device and creating a suit with telescopic metal legs, allowing him to tower over the skyscrapers of New York City. Day is seen by many as the quintessential failure in the supervillain community, so much so that upon his death, many of the B-level villains held a wake for the man they simultaneously pitied and respected. Recently, Day was cloned by the Jackal, essentially resurrecting him so that he can continue his pattern of failure.